Hey, what's going on, everybody? Adam here with NFT Bros Podcast. Today's episode, I have a special guest coming on, CryptoBulls. CryptoBulls, why don't you give a little explanation about who you are and what you do in the space, and then we can kind of dive into today's episode.
Awesome. Yeah. So I kind of dug into NFTs about a year and a half ago, I would say. Before that, I was a little bit into crypto. I was starting to learn how to trade crypto, but I was a true beginner. Like I was just trying to wrap my head around the whole thing. And then I came across Dante Walker's YouTube channel, and he's always talking about this crypto course that he's selling, right? So I'm like, you know what? Like, let me try it out. There's a free version of it. So I downloaded the free version of the course, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just spend the I think it's like 250 or 200 bucks at the time to get the full course. And that course came with access to Discord, right? So I went and I purchased the course, got in Discord. I had no idea what Discord was. I'm just like, is this like a social channel? Is this a website? I was just totally clueless of the whole thing. So I joined his Discord, and it kind of just all started from there, really. I purchased his course. We all started talking as a group about crypto, but then maybe like a month or two into that course, we all were just like, hey, what's this NFC thing, right? And Dante was super interested in it, right? We all never really uh, traded NFTs yet. So we all kind of learned NFTs together, which was super cool to see. And obviously, Dante really took off in that space. So that's kind of how I originally got into NFTs. And it just kind of has taken over every aspect of my life since. It's kind of been a whirlwind the past year and a half in this space. And as you know, if anybody in this in NFTs, 1 week is equated to like a month in normal life, right? So even though I've only been in it for about a year and a half, it feels like 5 years at least, right? Like because it's just so demanding. It's forever changing. Like if even if you take like a week break in this space, I feel like you just lost like an entire month.
Absolutely. I like literally, I've been in this space for a little over a year now, and I just recently took off Thursday, like half of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all day. And oh my God, I feel like I'm 3 weeks behind. It's horrible.
Oh my God, yeah. And like your Discord DMs just pile up. It's just insanity. Like it's just like never ending.
Yeah. I honestly haven't even looked at my Discord DMs. I just went in there and searched your name for today's podcast,
Yep.
and I was like, I don't even want to know how many I have right now.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. It's literally 24/7, right? It's unlike any
Yeah,
other thing
absolutely.
I've like encountered even at like my normal job, which I'll get into as well. Like we have set hours more or less. Sometimes you work a little overtime, but like NFTs is just literally 24/7 because it's so
Yeah.
global too. Discord is 24/7, so it's constantly nonstop, right? But yeah, so yeah, that's how I really got started. I bought Dante's crypto course. And then we all started trading NFTs, and he was like, his light bulb went off. I was like, hey, like this is pretty freaking cool. So he turned his we turned his Discord from crypto to NFTs. That's really how I got my foot in the door and learned it through him and learned it through other influencers in this space. At the time, I was just really Llama was one of the first ones coming out with it, so I was one of the first ones in his Discord too. So that's kind of how I really got started, and then I got into like trading these NFTs, and at the time it was like prime bull run, right? Which I wish it was still the case. But yeah, so that's like how I really, started learning about it, really diving into it. Um, and then some background on me. So for the past 10 years, I've been in the advertising marketing space, working through agencies. So I worked on maybe like three or four different agencies at this point, all working on like major global brands. So I've worked on, Samsung, Mercedes, Chase, Google, probably like 15 or 20 of the top brands in the world. So that's kind of my background, right? Obviously, all Web2 focused. So I've done, for the past 6 years, I was really focusing on website. So project manager for Mercedes for 6 years, and then before that, I did everything from like managing like banner ads and social media campaigns, basically anything under the marketing and advertising umbrella I've touched at this point. So that's been kind of my professional experience, right? But since I've dug headfirst into this wild NFT ride, you know, you see, and I'm sure you're aware, like all these brands are kind of their light bulb is going off too. Like, hey, if this random person could make a couple $1 million off this JPEG, why can't I, right? So we're seeing a lot of our clients now raising their hands saying like, hey, I want a piece of this too. So now this year I've kind of transitioned my role from that traditional project manager to be solely focused Web3. So anything Web3, especially Discord is my specialty at my job now. Um, if a big brand that we have as a client wants a Discord, I kind of am the one to, architect it, set it up, do security audits, and, help a team kind of teach them in a way, teach them about Web3, teach them about Discord as well, and help with the strategy behind that, activation. So it's been literally from my little NFT flipping on the side to, my actual career. So it's been pretty wild ride this year.
Yeah, absolutely. That's that's I find it more and more common that that is becoming like a more common story. It's like, oh, I just kind of started dabbling in NFTs, and then it took over my life. Because that's exactly how it did for me.
Yep.
I I still have my advertising agency that I run in Web 2, but I mean I'm all Web 3. Like I have a CEO over there. I do a weekly check in, and I just like you guys do whatever you want. I'm in NFT land. I don't care what goes on over there. Like it's practically your company at this point.
Oh my God.
Um, yeah, so I'm full time in NFTs. I just find it so like the technology and the things that can be done with it is so fun to just think about and implement. Like I was on a walk the other day and I came up with this insane idea. I don't even know if it's possible. I have zero like coding experience or like I well, okay, I have a little bit, but like in terms of Ethereum and coding in the back end of actual crypto and blockchain things, I'm so lost. I couldn't even read a contract if you asked me to.
Me either.
And so,
I shake my head.
but
Yeah, it
like,
looks good.
yeah, I DM'd my lead dev and I was like, oh my gosh, I have the craziest idea. I need to get on the phone with you to see if it's possible. And he was like, okay, calm down. We can schedule a call for Tuesday. I was like, no, no, no. We need to move on it now. He's like, dude, I'm in Australia. Our time differences don't work out. It's like 3 a.m. already. I'm going to bed. And I was like, damn it. Because
Oh
I
my
know it's going
God.
to be a 2 hour conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I don't know. I love NFTs in that aspect. There's just so much to do. And I think that kind of leads perfectly into our first question is like, what are the top three reasons for big brands to come into the NFT space in terms of like technology or specifically gaining that extra, I guess, connectivity to their consumers? What would
Yeah.
be your top three reasons for a big brand to come into the space?
Obviously, like the first and obvious one is like more that FOMO aspect, right? They see everybody else doing it. So they know there's a giant opportunity there. So they want a piece of that too. They want to be one of the first, right? Because NFTs, Web3, it's literally the evolution of the internet, people are saying. So so you could kind of rewrite your story. So maybe if you didn't get that whole internet boom right, you can get the NFT Web3 right and be one of the first. So the FOMO aspect is huge, right? So you're gonna keep seeing brands jump into this space because even if they don't fully understand it, they just want like a piece of it. They want to find their seat at the table, and they're still figuring out like where that is exactly, but they just want a piece of it. They want to have that connection to it. So that's like the number one thing that brands like start opening their eyes to, right? Like they start seeing this and they're like, all right, I want this. I want to be in this. This is super cool. And then the other one, obviously, it's the money aspect too, right? Because if a 16-year-old degen in his mom's basement could make $3 million off a pixel like cat NFT, like why can't these big brands make like that and way more, right? Like this space literally opens up the door for anyone to make a lot of money in. So the brands are going to be taking advantage of that, right? So there's a huge financial opportunity. Like Nike made what, like 185 million off of NFTs? Like that's wild. That's wild,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep. And just to touch on that point, the way that they did it with Artifact was super smart because the supply chain for shoes, I have a buddy who runs a specific shoe boutique, multiple of them. And he goes, dude, the supply chain for shoe deliveries is just it's a shit show right now. And I love seeing big companies, especially in the shoe space, come in and do things like Artifact. Like you can, claim your special Air Force One, right? And it gives them the money up front from the mint, and then the delivery aspect is scattered throughout whenever somebody wants that shoe. And so it doesn't give them a massive order that they have to fulfill. It's chopped up over however long um, that period of time is for the claim. So that's huge with what they did. They're definitely innovating, and I'm doing something with that idea as well in the future.
Yeah, that's the other piece to it too, is the innovation part, right? Because a lot of these brands, they're innovators in the Web2 space. Why not be huge innovators in the Web3 space? If that's taking your original product, services, and offerings and moving that over to Web3 in a space that it hasn't been used before, or just thinking outside the box and making it even like cooler using the technology, right? There's just a huge, huge opportunity there in innovation. Like, why not be one of the biggest innovative brands in the Web3 space? Why not claim that? Right? There's a couple brands that are doing it right, like you said, Nike, of course. Um, but a lot of brands are just trying to figure this out right now, right? This is all so new, and it's even, I feel like we're veterans and been around for a year. That's wild.
Yeah, it's weird. It's so weird. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So that's the other thing, is the innovation part. Then also the other aspect, right, with it, with any brand, is the innovation, it's the financial, but then it's also the PR marketing aspect as well, right? This is another avenue to get their brand out there. Are they hitting that never been done before checkbox? Are they maybe they want to get into another avenue that they haven't even touched upon in Web 2, but that's something they want to get in Web 3, right? So there's this marketing and PR aspect. Then there's reaching a whole different demographic, right? Or different audience that you haven't touched on in Web 2. So there's just a ton of opportunity here for brands. So honestly, you're going to keep seeing more and more brands come in. Eventually, it's going to be the norm. It's going to be like the internet. You're going to Google a brand, of course, they're on the internet. That's how it's going to be in a couple of years. Every brand's going to be in this. In the future, everyone's going to, when things become more user friendly, more and more normal people are going to be in this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Once that's one of the big hurdles of coming into the NFT space is the onboarding aspect, and like people not understanding what they need to do to not only be safe but to actually use a wallet. Like they're just so used to taking a number and typing in a number on a credit card to purchase something, rather than having to, you know, get a Coinbase account or an FTX account and then fund a random wallet. And it, like, it's, there's so many different steps. For us, it seems so simple, right? We're just like, oh, we do this, boom, right? I can do it within 2 minutes. But for them, it's like, whoa, this is a daunting task. What's a wallet?
Oh
Right? I
yeah.
have no idea.
It's
Yeah.
it's
So,
wild. I mean, like at work, I work with some of like the smartest UX designers, and like we just create very simple and like just smart things. Like, like if you think like how you think about things is just how you end up doing it when we create it. And then like Web3, it's the polar opposite. Just throw that out the window. It's like, how difficult can you make this? Like even like accepting a MetaMask transaction, like how am I supposed to read this? Like it blows my mind. Like how have you not like just made this super simple? Like I feel like they just recently, like last month, put like made some enhancements, but like you should say like someone's about to steal all your money. Like, like they just came out
Yeah.
with that. That took that long, you know? It's so daunting. Like, if even if you want to buy an NFT, you gotta like create a, use like a marketplace, open up a Coinbase account, set up your bank, transfer your regular money, buy the crypto you want, pay a gas fee. You got to explain to them what a gas fee is and why you have to pay $20 to get your money out of this Coinbase account to get into your MetaMask, because you got to use MetaMask to buy an NFT on OpenSea. It's insanity, you know?
And then you have another gas fee to
Yeah.
purchase the NFT that you
And
want.
then another
Yeah.
gas fee to list it, you know?
And then another gas fee to transfer it to your cold storage wallet, which is a whole other thing. Like, what's a cold storage? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah. And then like
Yeah,
one wrong
most
thing and it's
definitely.
all gone. Like you bought that,
Yeah,
you have enough money to buy that ape? All right, click that one wrong link. Forget about it.
yeah, yeah, precisely. And that leads into like security and safety in the space.
Oh my God.
It is the wild, wild west out here. These scammers. I joke with a bunch of my friends, and like whenever I meet up with people in person, when security in the space topic comes up in conversation, I always joke. It's like, if I didn't have morals, I would be super rich right now. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean? Because
Yeah.
like I could figure out how to social engineer somebody and scam. Like it's
It's so
it's
easy.
so easy because people just don't understand. Like I've had some very, very, very well thought out, well put together social engineering scams hop in my DMs and try to get me, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine being somebody who's super new to the space coming in. Like I would believe that
Oh yeah.
100%. I would have lost all my money.
Oh yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah, it's crazy.
And then you
So
put Discord
security
on
and
top of that. It's like there's the whole stealing your funds and like stealing your account. It's like, oh, it's literally
yeah,
everywhere. Like I have to like teach my colleagues like, don't click on anything, turn off your DMs. Like they're just
yeah,
there's someone always out to get you because like you said, it's just so easy to pull off. It's not even
yep,
like, all right, let's say you fall for a scam in real life and someone took your credit card, charged $5,000. Okay, I'm gonna call the bank, give me my $5,000 back. That doesn't exist here. It's like literally it's just gone forever, right? So the security aspect is a bit wild, like coming into the space, not only do you have to learn everything, but then you have to learn how to use everything safely so that it doesn't get stolen. Even like
yeah,
veterans and people that have been around for a while, like they get their stuff stolen. Like
yep,
they just get
absolutely.
so
I see
creative
it
with it.
weekly on Twitter.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, I see it happen weekly on Twitter, and that was a portion of the idea that I had the other day. Excuse me. That was a portion of the idea I had the other day on my walk was surrounding security and like the complexity of the idea that I had would solve a lot of the problems. But I'm like, one, I don't know if it's possible. I still need to talk to my dev. And two, the complexity of it would not only completely turn off a new person coming into the space, but just add another layer of, wait, I have to do what? To the entire situation of them having to do 18 steps just to purchase something
Yeah,
on the blockchain,
it's
right?
wild.
And it would be used by damn near every NFT trader or crypto investor in the space who has been here for a minute and understands, hey, this is a cold storage wallet, this is your hot wallet, this is your minting wallet, like all of these different things, and this is how to avoid scams. Like this would help with all of that, and people would just jump on it instantaneously. Um, but the new people who are coming into the space, it would be such a higher barrier to entry for them that they would just be like, forget about it. Like it sounds too complicated, even though we can market it to be as simplistic as possible. like they would probably just brush it off until they get hacked or until they get scammed and their stuff gets stolen, and then they're
They're
like,
forced to learn.
oh, oh shoot, right? And I hate to have it be that way, um, but yeah, I really want to get moving on that, but
Hey, if you could
it's
figure it out, more power to you. Someone has to, and that's my whole
yeah,
thing. I feel like the key for this whole NFT world to really go mainstream is the simplification of it, right? In the front end, like how you sell it to your customer, right? Like if you can figure out how to make NFTs Web3 as simple as your regular task in real life, then you've hit it. Then everyone will get it. Like for example, if like Starbucks, for example, if I want to go buy a coffee, I have a rewards program, show them my app, scan it. But then, like I'm not going to get into exactly what Starbucks is doing, but like if you just take what you would normally do in real life and then add the NFT component to it, and some people might know it's there, some people might not. That is the key because you're going to get
yeah,
everyone to understand Web3 and the power of NFTs without it just having like 15 steps and the most awful user experience. So I think like once we figure that out, then everyone will kind of catch on. Then people will start learning it slowly, so they'll be less intimidated by it. So I think that's kind of the missing key here.
yeah, yeah, precisely. You bring up a great point because I spoke with my sister last night on the phone, just called her to check in. We don't live in the same city, hadn't talked to her in a little bit. And I called and, I was telling her about a new project that I'm about to launch. And she's like, wait, so how does that work? And it's very simplistic in terms of the steps in order to get your product, right? And I told her how it works, and I could kind of like hear her thinking about it even though she wasn't talking, like I could hear the wheels spinning, and then she goes, oh, so it's like blah blah blah, and I forget the example she used, but I was like, yes, precisely, it's exactly like that. And she goes, oh, that's cool, and then could you do this with that? And I was like, yes, there you go. Yes, you can do that with these. And she's like, oh, that's kind of, that's really cool. And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
you should get into it. I'll give you one. And she was like, okay. And so I onboarded one,
There you go,
you
your
know,
first customer.
yeah, it was a 48-minute phone call, but got one, um, yeah, so the innovation and the different things that you can do with NFTs is huge. I for one am really looking forward to seeing how big brands implement things in terms of innovation coming in the next 12 to 24 months, especially with not only fashion but tech. I
Oh yeah,
can't wait for the tech,
the
like the
tech is
big
gonna
tech
be
companies.
cool.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
it's
awesome.
going to be so cool. Like there's going to be things that just absolutely blow your mind. And I think it leads perfectly into our second question, which is kind of relatable to our first question. And we're going to stay on the topic of big brands just because that's where you have the majority of the experience. So where do you see like the future of brands in Web3? And I think that's kind of a generalized question, but it might spark something in your mind. So I'll just kind of leave it at that.
Yeah, I think I touched upon this a little bit before too, but I think it's just going to be the norm. I think more and more brands are going to get in it. It's going to be the normal thing to, be in a metaverse, have an NFT, have your product offerings, you know, combine like your Web2 offerings with Web3, right? And it's just going to be the norm. That's just how I see it. There's just no other way around it. Now, the time period it takes to get there, that's the big question, right? I see Web3 right now as, your 1990s or early 2000s actually, like flip phone, right? And you just got like the internet on it. You got that, you got to touch the number three times to start texting, and you are just got on the internet for the first time, and you think it's the coolest thing on earth, that you can like browse Google on your flip phone. I feel like that's the stage we're at, like there's just so much more to come. And we've already seen some really cool innovations in NFTs, but now take, Google and Facebook and all these big, big brands with their money and resources and team and, like how smart they all are. Like, just wait. It's just gonna blow up. You know what I mean? And what we think is really cool today is gonna be like nothing. Like what we spent like $5,000 on like a month ago for like these pixelated JPEGs that do absolutely nothing, right? And it's like, oh, cool, you got like this rainbow skin, that's super rare, like come on now. It's gonna be like totally irrelevant, compared to what the big brands and the big thinkers in the space are gonna do. I think it's just gonna I think it's just gonna, become the norm. It's literally the second version of the internet.
Yeah, yeah. I like what you were saying with it's the flip phone. I feel like we're kind of like another analogy in terms of that is like we're at the Tetris and Snake
Yes.
games on the phone era
Yes.
of NFTs, right? We have so much like dumb stuff going on. It's just
We get excited
like you
about the
mentioned, the
stupidest stuff, like the
the
stupidest stuff.
rainbow skin or it's like oh my gosh, it's gonna be hilarious to look back on. And I can't wait to just scroll down my Twitter feed one day and just see the stuff that we were excited about or that we were retweeting and we were
Yeah.
just super hyped about. Oh my gosh, because the tech that's coming is gonna it's gonna be mind boggling. And I for one am super super excited about it, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, me too. I'm super interested to see like just the cool shit that comes out, Like it's gonna be really, really cool to see. And then like you're actually buying things with utility, you know what I mean? Like it's actually
Right.
like something really cool and practical and not just like this fake utility that 99% of the NFTs have today. There's actually gonna be purpose assigned to it.
Yep, absolutely, and it'll be tied to a bigger entity with the funds to back up what they're saying. Right, we find a lot of times in the NFT space that promises are made and promises not kept are very common in the NFT space. Whether it's a rug that's purposeful or one that just the the founders didn't know what they were doing and they couldn't deliver because they didn't plan for the future or they didn't have the big team behind them to go, okay, like what's the big picture and then what can we focus on now to successfully implement that big picture vision.
Absolutely. I mean, if you take the majority of the NFT projects that, have sold out, have kind of hit like their KPI, right? They would like imagine having them pitch to Web2 like venture capitalists and investors. It would literally just they'll get laughed at. They wouldn't even get like $1,000 for it, right? It's like I want to make an NFT that has an animal in it, and it's really cool. I promise you. And we might give out whitelists to our community members. Like okay, you know what I mean? Like they will literally get nowhere, but yet they made a couple $1 million in this space, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you bring up the venture capitalist and like somebody who sold out like a project that is just like random art or whatnot. So I'm planning on doing a raise for a project that we're working on right now, and I have spoken, and I'm advising a project that's doing a raise right now as well. And I've spoken to them, and they go, the biggest hurdle that we're having, not only explaining our idea to the venture capitalists, but it's that we don't have experience in Web3 in terms of like actually having done something. And they go, even though you sold out like this project of cubes, right? It's the art is just really out there. Nobody like it's not a PFP. Like it's super hard to grasp the idea of why somebody would hold one unless you knew the inner workings of like how the Ethereum blockchain works and things like that, right? And he goes, but the fact that you sold out and that you did something in this space and that you're still here is going to be way, way, way more beneficial for you when you go to do a raise than your actual idea. And I
Right.
was like, that's kind of crazy to me because these VCs are very, very risk adverse and they understand the risks that they're investing in. And it's kind of crazy to me to think that they would just go, okay, like you sold out some random PFP project, we'll give you money to see if you can do it again or like innovate in another way. But it 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 kind of makes sense to me because of where like the dot com era and the dot com bubble
Well,
we're
it's
at.
essentially you
Everybody was
raised the
getting
money
money.
already. You already
Yeah,
got that, right? You just didn't
right,
get it from them in particular, but you got it from the public.
right,
But they don't really
exactly,
understand that, like, you know, 2 months ago it's pretty easy to sell out basically any shit collection, right? But then if you
exactly,
add like
right,
something of substance, which Just Keeps has, it makes it like even easier, But
right.
um, yeah, like it's pretty wild if you think of it.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm excited for over the next couple months. I think we're going to try and do a raise before the end of the year for this project we have, um, which I'd like to bounce the idea off you and see kind of where your head's at with it, and in terms of I guess getting it implemented in a lot of communities without having to have them be like, oh, we want whitelist. Like the idea is to try and onboard the as many people into this as we can without having to sell a bunch of NFTs, because it's something that'll help the space uh, continue moving forward and continue onboarding people in a safe way. So we'll talk about that at another time.
Yeah, I'd
But
love to hear it
yeah,
when you guys are
I
ready.
think yeah, definitely. I have two things actually to bring up, which we can talk about after this. But I think this is kind of like a perfect segue into question three, which is obviously similar to the first two questions and staying on the big brands coming in from Web two into Web three is like, where do you see the biggest opportunity in the space for Web two brands to come in?
Yeah, so I think it's a couple pieces to that, right? I think it's taking what you are already doing really, really well and doing it in the Web3 space seamlessly, right? So I feel like right now there's not a lot of people that have really nailed the in real life component to it. So I'm waiting for like the brands to come out and really get that right. You know what I mean? Because that's a missing piece, right? Like what you would normally do out like not staring at your computer with your Mercedes car or your BMW or your whatever device, right? So getting what you're already doing right, but then also taking, that's your really smart team and your money and being really innovative beyond that, right? And then something that I mentioned before is if the brands figure out how to just make things so simple and dummy proof that in introducing them to Web3, I think it's going to make everything more mainstream and then using the technology, right? Even, like event concert tickets and having an NFT component to that, that's like a very seamless and practical use of it, right? But everyone needs concert tickets or event tickets and things like that. That's like a really easy way to get into the space, right? So just making things so seamless, innovating and branching out what you're already doing in the Web2 space.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point, and I love that you brought up ticketing because token proof. I think they just raised like 5 million um, in terms of venture capital coming into their project and investing in the future of token gated events and um, having the development of that be so seamless for projects to use, like Ape Fest used token proof, right? And you're going to see a lot more of these NFT conferences start to use token proof, and I really hope that a lot of music venues and sports venues and things like that start using NFTs, because it not only there's just so many benefits to having a token gated event, and having, let's say, token proof app, right? Not only are you mitigating scams on fake tickets from scalpers outside the front of stadiums or whatever, but you're getting another cut of those sales, right? They have that already, but um, you know, it helps not only avoid scams and, you know, improve trust inside of like a community who believes in like whatever sports team is doing, right? You add another aspect, right? Like old Super Bowl tickets, for example, those sell for a ton of money if you have those physical tickets. Now, what if you had those on the blockchain? They would have the same value. You might not have the physical, or you could have the physical, right? It might be attached, and I think there's a lot of cool things going on in the space, in terms of innovating with token gating and physical items. Like when we were at VCon, there was a project there that was working with VFriends on token gated things, but also having the physical item. So, like tickets, for example, having those stored in a secure facility, but owning the NFT. So you can claim those at any time and get the physical item, but it's safe if you don't, right? So you don't have to hold it. And it could be a super valuable, let's say, baseball card or whatever the case may be. Um, I thought that was a very cool idea, having a storage facility for things like that.
Yeah, there's just so much you can do, and with specifically with event tickets, like it's you could even take a regular ticket, but then add an NFT component to it, right? So that it becomes more. I think it's you have to get people to be like normalize NFTs a little bit more. So a lot of companies are, even if you go see this movie, you get an NFT, right? That's not like super innovative, but that is opening up the door for the average person to understand it a little bit more. Like, oh, what is this thing I just got? You know?
Yeah.
And making this like just simple, like the was it use zero thing I thought was interesting because you could just send crypto without a crypto wallet. Like that just made sense to me, like
Right.
so
Yeah.
just making things just user friendly, simple, but then yet like adding the innovation component to it, which it hasn't been done before, you know? Even like real estate, I think that's going to be a category that's totally going to change in the future as well.
Yeah.
Like why not,
Huge.
you know?
Yep, absolutely. That was a point of the very very first podcast we did, was token gated events and NFTs, and real estate and NFTs. So like land deeds and things like that. It's going to be a huge portion of the tech of NFTs that's going to um, feed into those industries and provide a lot of value. And I think the people who understand what needs to happen in terms of having those web 2 spaces become more involved in the web 3, those are the people who are not only going to make a lot of money because they're innovators and they can implement an idea and put together a team, but they're going to help facilitate a safe onboarding for a lot of people who are not in the web 3 space to come into the web 3 space and feel safe,
For sure.
which is huge for all of us. That affects everybody. One person that you onboard or one person that I onboard, like my sister, that is contributing to your brand's vision and whatever you are doing, right?
Right.
Because I don't know, my sister could be super interested in, let's say, Samsung, right? And she'd be like, oh my gosh, they're in the space. Let's go. Like, that's super cool. I want to be involved, right? And then they start learning more about the space or whatever it is. Like Nike, there could be diehard Nike fans that have no idea they're in the NFT space, but then they sit down with you and you start having a conversation. You're like, oh, I like those shoes. They're like, oh, I'm the biggest Nike fan. And you go, do you know they're in the NFT space? And they're like, what's the NFT space?
Yeah.
And then, you onboard one person and they might be interested in something that I'm doing, and it just spreads, right? So yeah, that's huge. I'm excited for the future of this space, and just onboarding people is something that I'm passionate about, and something that a main reason I made this podcast was to help educate people and bring more people into this space safely. So
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
that's a huge thing, and I think this conversation was super productive and will help give a lot of perspective to people who are new to the space, and people who are veterans who have been here for a year that are veterans.
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
right? I don't think there's any other space in the world that you could be a veteran at 1 year or 2 years.
Oh, 2 years,
But
you're a
oh
grandmaster,
gosh,
like you are top dog there.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's hilarious. Oh man. Um, well, with that, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about or touch on or share that you're doing? I like to kind of give every guest that comes on the podcast a segment to tell the listeners and the viewers what you're doing and how you're doing it and how to connect with you.
Yeah, so like I said before, I work at, a big agency that helps, brands. So, I'm just trying to help as many brands as possible come into this space, understand it, have the right strategy going in, right? And then also, I have the communities that I've been a part of, some since day one, and some just been like, those NFTs that you actually want to hold, So I've been working with them closely with Omega Alpha, DWC, Project Ajira. Just there's some communities that you just really love and you want to be a part of them, you want to help them. So yeah, just supporting whatever projects that you're most passionate about. I think in the space, right? Because I feel like there's people could bring so much to um, the communities that they're really passionate and really into, and everyone has different skill sets. So it's just really cool to kind of see, be a part of some of these projects since day one and see them evolve. Has been a really cool experience. But you can also reach me on Twitter. I am CryptoBulls. That's my Twitter handle. Yeah, it's been awesome talking to you, and I hope to do this again with you.
Awesome. Yeah, likewise. It was an awesome conversation. I think I would love to have you back on the podcast in the future. Maybe even after we launch what I am going to
Your
discuss with
secret new
you.
project.
Yeah, the secret new projects, I think could be a very interesting conversation. And I think you would have a lot of good input to add to the conversation. So I'd love to
Awesome.
have you on the podcast again. Thank you for coming on. Um, as always, everybody, if you're watching on YouTube or listening on whatever podcast platform that you listen on, if you could, please leave us a review, subscribe, download the podcast. It helps us boost up in the algorithm and onboard more people into the NFT space safely. So that's the goal with NFT Bros podcast, just onboard more people and educate more people to what NFTs are. So, all right, with that, thank you guys for listening. I will see you on episode 7. All right, peace.